offering a comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and emergency care services so residents can live life better here. San Juan Regional Medical Center, community owned and operated, here for you.
Surplus store corner People's Drive on 24th Street.
Welcome to the Cop Shop with FPD. I'm Shanice Gonzales, the Public Information Officer, and with me as always is Chief Hebbe. How are you?
Good. How are you, Shanice?
I'm good. You've done a ton of driving this week.
Been
all over the place.
Been a bunch of driving, yes. And you joined me in Roswell.
I did. Lots of rain.
Lots of rain. And they had bad flooding last year, so they didn't need really probably to see much more rain. But it was my first trip to Roswell. Have you been there before?
No, I passed through it for like softball tournaments. But yeah, all the little alien stuff is super cute.
Yeah.
They really
they lean
buy
into
into
it.
all of that.
So it's already May, which is somewhat shocking. The year's going fast.
It is.
And we've had busy times lately. As you know, we had an officer-involved shooting in Farmington. Didn't involve Farmington officers. Involved federal marshals, and that's being investigated by the county sheriff's office. So we don't have a lot of information for you on that one, other than to say I saw a bunch of comments on our page about keeping the federal marshals out, and honestly, they have jurisdiction in our community. They have jurisdiction throughout the country. So there's no question of whether they can come into our city or not. They absolutely can. And they were working a case, I believe, with the sheriff's office at the time of that incident. So you'll have to watch the news, and the sheriff's office will put out more info as that investigation goes on. But we also had another incident, and that was the sentencing of Elias Buck, who, if you recall, was the gentleman who shot one of our police officers, Officer Joseph Barretto. And Elias had escaped from jail in Colorado. He was a felon, a couple-of-time felon, armed himself with a gun, and was stopped by Farmington officers, fled the scene, and when confronted by Officer Barretto, who still wasn't sure who he wasn't sure he was connected to the car that had fled from us, he pulled out a gun and shot the officer. The officer was able to flinch and just puts his arm up and blocks his face, and the bullet hits him. So Elias had been sentenced to 10 years in federal prison for being a felon in possession of a handgun, and was back in New Mexico here a week or so ago for sentencing on the state charges. And there were essentially 3 state charges. One was aggravated assault on a police officer, one was being a felon in possession, and one was using a firearm as an enhancement to commit a felony. And for those he faced, I think, up to 11 years potentially, maybe it was 10. It was either 10 or 11 years that was the max that he could get under state court. Really, the question then became whether it would be consecutive to the federal sentence. He had previously been sentenced in Colorado for charges that he had up there to concurrent time, which means at the same time that he's serving the federal time, he's also getting credit for serving time for the Colorado sentences. So what we were angling for was that not be concurrent, that you not have, for every day you're in jail, you're settling 3 different cases. What we wanted was consecutive sentence, reflecting the seriousness of the charges here in New Mexico, in addition to the federal charges. So we've got some audio tape for you. This was the sentencing hearing, and in the sentencing hearing, I addressed the court. I was the only one that addressed the court, other than the prosecutor, but the only witness that addressed the court. And then you'll hear Mr. Buck talk as well. And then we'll talk some of the complexities of cases like this, and why we felt the sentence was warranted.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Good afternoon. I'm Steve Hebbe. I'm police chief in Farmington. There's a couple of things I guess I'd like to talk today about this incident. First, to Mr. Buck. I heard from various sources, and listening to you now twice, I think you are genuine.
Chief Hebbe, you're going to address the court.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I believe Mr. Buck is genuinely remorseful for what occurred. And I listened to him in federal court, and his statements today are approximately the same. And that takes a lot for me to say that I bow and hold no ill will towards someone that shot a police officer that works for me. But I believe that he is genuine in his feelings of remorse. And I appreciate the fact that he has waived a trial, that he's waived his rights, that we're not having to go through an entire process and bringing in Officer Barretto to relive those events. And all of that is significant to me, and I appreciate that from him. The second part of what I want to talk about is the broader picture of what we do and the significance of this event. Because this is going to be your day, Your Honor, but an important one. The events that occurred in January of 2022 were the first time in about 30 years that a police officer had been shot from Farmington. That was followed up about 15 months later, almost 3 years to the day today, by another Farmington officer being shot. In the criminal justice system, the word that's overlooked more than it should be, and increasingly is overlooked, is justice. And the system is set up that it isn't an eye for an eye, but it is a sense that from the victims of crime that there's justice, that they've been heard, that they feel validated. And unfortunately in our society, and here in San Juan County itself, you're seeing more skepticism, more disbelief in the system. I know you're aware that we had a suspect in a crime that was shot when they were out on pretrial release. What I will tell you is that the citizens of our community were vocal about not cooperating with the police, not helping us track down the person that had done it, celebrating a vigilante style. And that to me as a chief is extremely ominous. That is a sign that people are losing faith that there is justice. So today, what we have is an incident where a uniformed officer was out in the middle of the night doing his job and contacted a suspect from what we were initially investigating as a DUI and a looting type case, and came across Mr. Buck, who had escaped from jail in Colorado and had come down here to Farmington, armed himself with a handgun, and when confronted by the officer, made the decision which was life-changing for many people, to pull the gun and shoot at the officer from nearly point-blank range. The officer flinches at the last and throws his elbow up to screen, and it hits him in the forearm. It should not be lost on us that he is no longer with Farmington Police Department. It should not be lost on us that he is not here today, that he just wants to try and move forward past a horrific event that occurred in his life, that occurred to him for no reason. So every day throughout San Juan County, our officers are going out there and putting themselves in circumstances extremely similar to this. 15 months or so after this incident, we had an active shooting, and our officers charged in to try and stop a threat of a person that had already killed 3 people in our community. Some of the officers didn't have vests on and charged in. One was shot, badly injured. State police officer was shot as well. This cannot be the society that we're looking for. This cannot be the society that we tolerate. So I have all sorts of personal hopes for Mr. Buck. He will get out at some point. And I hope that he does honor to his life by going forward to help people that were in the circumstances he was in when he got into this mess, when he made these decisions. I hope that he goes on to, that he doesn't have to regret something every day of his life, because he goes on and does great things in the next half of his life. And he's young, he will get out. But for you and I, we are sending a message to all the officers in San Juan County that are going out there and are putting their life on the line. 3 years, honestly, 3 years for aggravated assault on a police officer is almost insulting. It's what we're dealt, but it is pathetically wool. The fact that we're down hundreds of officers across the state of New Mexico shouldn't be lost on us either. So this is a justice moment for us. There isn't a lot we can do. We can't magically produce hundreds of new officers, but what we can do is reinforce the fact that they are society's representatives, that these young men and women that are going out there and representing us on these calls, when bad things happen to them, we stand with them. And we send a message that it will not be tolerated. I know you'll feel bad later on, and you will go on and hopefully have a chance to rectify that in the future life. But today, sitting here today, we cannot tolerate attacks on our police officers. We are extremely fortunate the officer was not killed. That is through circumstance, not through decision. And the message that we should be delivering, Your Honor, today is one of solidarity with people that are making sacrifices for our community. And when they are in positions like this, somebody hears them, that justice really is there, that they will be validated, that this case means something to all our citizens in San Juan County, to all of the men and women that we're asking to go out there every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Buck, this is your chance to speak.
Since this happened in January 2022, there hasn't been a day that I haven't thought about Mr. Barreto and the way I've affected him and his family. It should have never have happened. It was a senseless, reckless, and quite frankly, just incredibly selfish thing to do. And I had no right to alter his life, or the life of anybody else. You know, I'm very glad that he's okay. I'm aware that this could have turned out much worse, and then I'm also aware that this has had an effect on his life that I'm not going to stand up in here and pretend to know or understand, as well as the lives of his family, as well as the lives of the police officers behind me. I would also like to apologize to the police department and law enforcement as a whole. This is the type of event that can affect the health of a force that keeps the community safe, and affecting recruitment levels and so on, and causing families to worry while their loved ones are out serving the community. Since I've been in prison, 3 years ago, let me just start out, 3 years ago, the life I lived was incredibly selfish. I rarely benefited anybody in a positive manner around me, and all I cared about was using drugs, and my selfishness affected many people. And since I've been in prison, I've been able to see the damage I've caused. And I've committed myself to becoming a different person who can contribute to something that is bigger than himself, to being somebody who has integrity instead of being a parasite on the community around him, instead of just indulging in stuff that is of no use to anybody and harmful as well. I don't want to stand up here and try to downplay anything. This was a horrible incident, and I regret it every day. And I'm sorry to Mr. Barreto. I'm sorry to his family for the pain I have caused him. Thank you.
So for me, that was the first time that I had ever experienced anything like that. And Judge Wayne ended up sentencing Elias Buck to 10 years, which was the max sentence for for the shooting. And he also was sentenced to 10 years for a felon in possession, and the sentencing was whether or not it was going to be concurrent, and it was. So Elias Buck will have 20 years for both of those charges.
So it was consecutive.
Oh, is that what it was?
So,
Okay.
which was what we wanted. So the judge gave him the max that he could under state, and I think going into it, I thought maybe he could get 11, but I don't think so in retrospect. So he got the max that he could get, and it was consecutive. Now he gets good time in the state system, so he won't do 10 fully. But it was about as good as you could get. He probably will do a total of 18 or so for this event, which is probably where I think it should be in the first place. I hate that we had to. Fortunately, he was a felon in possession, and we could charge him under the Fed system, and we got 10 for that. Otherwise, this whole thing would have been settled at less than 10. He could have got the max sentence in state court, and then with good time, he'd have been out in less than 10. Some of that goes to what I'm saying in general about how we're dealing with police officers and things that happen to them, and we just don't take it seriously enough. And then we're shocked that our recruiting numbers are as bad as they are across the state. It isn't the pay, and we've talked about that a bunch. It's moments like this where you're standing there in court listening to somebody that shot a police officer knowingly. The officer's in uniform doing his job, and how does the system handle it? I also would say it was a complex one. Mr. Buck was both times that I was in court with him, he was remorseful. And I think that it's actually genuine, and I'm not an easily swayed person on things like that. But I think that he is remorseful. But like I said that day, you're going to feel bad about it later on, but that doesn't minimize the true damage that you caused. And the fact that Officer Barreto is no longer with us at FPD, he is continuing his law enforcement career in New Mexico. But it was a long period of months before he got rehabbed and was able to come back. We're lucky that he wasn't killed. Overall, a lot of lives were negatively impacted.
And I like how you hit on that it's not just about Officer Barreto. You bring up the entire community of policing and what these men and women go through, and that their lives matter, and that this is a message to them, and it's also a message to the community. And Elias Buck also hits on that when he apologizes to the officers behind him, because he knows that he changed everyone's lives that day in this community.
Yeah, so, when we watch stuff on the police, cops, or forensic files or something, it's all just a TV show. But this was real life. These were real people that were. Mr. Buck is serving a sentence in New York. They flew him back here, and he's standing there facing his day. I did give him credit that he pled guilty to it. Didn't work for a big plea bargain. Just pled guilty and owned what had happened. Which isn't what happens most of the time in the criminal justice system. So I did give him some props for that. But I was satisfied at the end of the day that the best that we could do to deter this kind of behavior in the future, and to send a signal to all police officers in New Mexico that this is not just taken for granted. That your sacrifice and you actually putting your life on the line does matter to us. I was satisfied that this sentence achieved the best that we could get. So.
And I think it was confusing because I remember Tri-City had put out his initial charge or his initial sentence for the felon in possession, and people were outraged in the community that he had only gotten 10 years for shooting at a police officer, but they don't understand they're separate charges. And so that was one charge where he had 10 years, and we were waiting for the second sentencing, which was now, and so it's 20 years altogether.
Yeah, it was, like I said, 3 years for aggravated assault on a police officer is just a joke. Honest to God. And so when we're looking at a special session potential, and we'll see if there is going to be a special session this year, that is just ridiculous. So if he had not been a felon at the time, so you wouldn't have had the felon in possession charge in federal court, it would have been 3 years for shooting a police officer, which is just stunning. And goes to some of what I'm talking about, that these are the messages that we're sending to young men and women, whether we value what they're doing or not. And if you can shoot somebody and you're out in 3 years when they're society's representative, and those 3 years, of course, are then there's good time, so they're not even doing 3 years. That it is brutal, and we absolutely need to be taking a hard look at what we're doing. There's a reason, folks, that the governor is ordering the National Guard into Albuquerque to do policing. There's a reason for that. It's called shortage of cops. And it starts not with pay, which we're paying higher than we've ever paid. It starts in moments just like this, where they're sitting in court with their life being damaged, and a chance from the court to either send a message of positive or send a negative message that it really doesn't matter all that much. And to Judge Wayne's credit, he came through the best that he could. The legislature and the governor need to come through with stronger sentencing for people who attack police officers. It's just ridiculous.
I agree. We have about 1 minute left. Do you want to talk about the training?
You know,
Podcast?
we've actually had a busy couple of weeks. Shanice and I were in Roswell. We've talked about this previously. We were teaching at the New and Future Chiefs training, and it was 20, I think we had 20 people down there. So future leaders in law enforcement across New Mexico that we had good dialogue with, and talked about some of the incidents that had happened up here and some of the things that we're doing. And hopefully what they're going to get is some lessons from other chiefs. It's a week-long course, and at the end of it they'll have a little better appreciation for how to do the job, and hopefully what we're breeding is a new generation of leaders coming into New Mexico policing. So I know we're almost out of time. We'll have a lot more to talk about as we're coming up on the holidays on the next show. But any last words?
No, we do have some exciting news though. So KSJE has merged into like a podcast. So I'll be able to share those links, and we can have people subscribe directly to the podcast. So you'll be seeing more information on that on our Facebook page.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us here on the Cop Shop with FPD.